So please welcome back to the show, Donna Bond, but this time from the rainforest in Costa Rica.
Ashley, thank you so much for having me back. I'm honored to be with you again. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome and thank you because went down as I was preparing for you, remembering it was in August of 21. So it's now uh, March
Years
of
later.
2024. Like, what the heck? And I'm like, wow, and I look back and it was episode like 72. And I remember getting ready for you. And I read your book and your story was like just a completely uncovering your magic. And then I was thinking, gosh, we're in the beginnings of the 200s. I haven't missed an episode. I haven't missed a week since
You're
I've
incredible.
started this. So obviously I love it, right? And when I look back and I was trying to figure out when that was that I had met you, I'm like, wow, look where we are now. Look at our life. Like, look at where you have, uncovered more of your magic and have been that example to the world of what you teach as you do take the steps and you call them leaps, and you do find the magic in everything, and you are looking for the feeling that you get when something you're always in tune and in touch with your inner self and your higher self. And it's this new book that I read, the one that you're in chapter 1. I thought that was pretty cool. The
Pretty cool.
collaboration, Queen's Bee, right? Yeah, Queen
Yeah.
Bee, the Queen Bee, embody your truth and live fully expressed. And so, of course, I order it and read it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, oh, Donna, you have got to share the story because it just as an example. I mean, I know you mentioned the Surrender Experiment a lot by Michael Singer because I love that book and I resonate with that with my life too.
Yeah.
And I know when I surrender and just go and like just trust like you do, and that's when life is magical, and that's when you're finding your true purpose and what you're really here for. And that's what you do. That's what you've done. And I really would just like to just start with this Costa Rica, because really when I connected with you, I wanted you to be a guest at my retreat that I'm just starting, these monthly retreats, because I thought you would be in San Clemente. And so
All
I thought
right.
that'd be perfect. Donna can come down and be the guest. And she's like, no, I'm in Costa Rica. So that started it. But let's go to you know, when you had this when this Costa Rica started to uncover, because I just love the story. And please don't leave out anything because everyone listening is just going to be like, oh my gosh, it's just an example of someone that lives, like I said, with their eyes open, with their feelers, like, spread out, and what is coming for me next. And knowing that whatever comes up, you just say yes and know that you trust that, right? Go for it.
I love what you're sharing, and thank you so much for the accolades and the kudos. And um, I want to say, I don't know that my eyes were open. My heart was open. And I think that is sometimes the difference between, taking these big, courageous risks, because truly it's a walk in the dark. I have been walking in the damn dark, Ashley, since I started this journey. And I would love to tell you that I am bright enough and insightful enough to have my eyes wide open through the whole thing. But the truth is, I don't. The truth is, my eyes are closed and I'm just praying I'm not going to bump into anything bad.
Oh, funny.
15 years ago, my mother bought 2.5 acres of land in Costa Rica. My father died when I was 22 years old. He was 44. And that was really a doorway into my love of spirituality and psychology and, my awareness around the different realms and the fact that there's so much more that we can't, see and touch. And my mother, you know, she's a pretty remarkable woman. And she really rebuilt her life in so many amazing ways after my father passed. But the 2008 market crash took a lot of her savings. And she didn't think that she had enough money to retire in America. So she was on this mission to become an expat, and she was going to move to Costa Rica. And I have two younger sisters, and all three of us, we were like, yeah, okay, Ma, whatever. Like, we thought she was nuts, you know? But in my family, you can't tell anybody what to do because everybody's kind of thick-headed. We're Italian like that. So she had one foot out the door, and she was drawing up plans to build a house here. And then she met Bob, and her and Bob fell in love and got married. And he said, Betty, we're not going to Costa Rica. So the land sat there for a long, long time. And at one point, she called my husband and I. Paul is an avid surfer. He grew up in Laguna Beach, California, has been surfing, since he was standing, and has always had like a deep love of the tropics. His two best friends, one of them lives in Bali, and the other one lives in Fiji.
Oh, wow.
And which is also just like a weird thing. He's always been a lover of the tropics. So my mother called us and she said, hey, will you build a house with me? And we were like, we love you, Mom. Nope, we're not doing that. So more time went by, and she eventually said, listen, I don't want to worry about that property. I don't want to pay the taxes. I don't want to have to maintain the land. Will you just accept it from me? And my two sisters, they were like, knock yourself out. We want nothing to do with it. I was saying, I've never even been to Costa Rica. I'm like a middle-aged woman going through menopause. The tropics probably really isn't my thing. And she said, why don't you and Paul come with her and Bob, and we'll check it out and see. Well, we accepted the land. And my husband then was like, come on, let's build a house. Let's build a house. Let's build a house. I said, we're not going to build a house in Central America. What are you, crazy? We're not going to double mortgage our home in California to like do this really super risky project. That's nuts. And I used to say to him quite jokingly, when the money falls out of the sky, then we'll build a house. Well, guess what happened? The money fell out of the sky, and his father passed. We received an inheritance, and that gave us the money that we needed to build a house. So in March of 2020, everybody on the planet remembers what was happening in March of 2020. We came to Costa Rica. We signed a contract with an amazing builder who we had sort of been stalking for about a year. We gave him a $50,000 down payment. We came back to California, and the doors to Costa Rica closed, and we could not get into Costa Rica for an entire year.
Wow.
And so this house, every single inch of it got built over WhatsApp, which is extraordinary. Like every decision, every measurement, every idea, every discussion, every argument, all of it went back and forth over the thread of a chat app, which is kind of crazy, really. Right? It took a year for the house to get built, and we could not come here. So at the end of that 1 year, in December, we finally got back into the country. And I remember arriving here in the pitch dark, and I'm kind of under the Milky Way here. So the sky is just bursting with the most amazing stars you've ever seen. And we are like tiptoeing around this house, giggling and laughing that we're like unwrapping this incredible present.
Oh, goosebumps.
And it was magic. It was beautiful. And it was an incredible rental. It was a rental, Ashley, and that was the intention, to have it as a
Right?
rental. Yeah, right. Well, it was being rented nonstop. It was on Airbnb. We were making bank. Everything was going great. And then I foolishly made the mistake of facilitating a women's retreat here. And I didn't facilitate it at the home because the home isn't quite big enough to house as many women as I have during my retreat. But my point is that I held it here in Costa Rica. And this land is so wondrous and beautiful and mystical and magical. And over the course of the week, I began to receive downloads that, whether I liked it or not, I was coming to live here. And this was like literally one of those things where when you know and you
Right.
don't want to know, right? So I'm like, don't make me look at that. And that is literally like, I just have a sense in my body.
Mhm.
I'm clairsentient. So I just I can feel everything in every fiber of my being, and was just receiving these massive, massive waves of knowingness that we were coming to live here. And Paul and I had spent like 2 months in Costa Rica, and then we went back to California, and we're flying into LAX after we've been in this lush, green, emerald city of magicalness. We're flying into the Cementville of Los Angeles, right?
Yes, I can see it so clearly.
I know, right? I looked out the window and I looked back at Paul, and we looked each other in the eye. And I feel like it was right in that moment that the agreement that we had made on a soul level to embark on this adventure, it got activated. It got activated in that moment. And this was all happening in April of, gosh, so I guess it was 2022. Is that right? Yeah, April of 2022. And we started playing games with the universe. We said, what if we could get this absolutely ridiculous, crazy number for our house in Southern California? And Ashley, we picked a number that we never, ever thought anyone would
Right.
do. And that took 48 hours later. 48 hours later, we were holding on to our seats because we were just strapped into a massive coaster ride. And that is exactly how it felt. And I, at the time, was dealing with another potential breast cancer episode
Oh,
because they
no.
found something that wanted to be tested, in the midst of all of this happening. And so we were just completely going on trust. The people who bought our home said, we bought this for our parents, so you guys just take your time. They're not coming until October. So we want to close because we want this piece of real estate here in Southern California. And you can stay in the house for free until October. I mean, it was
Wow.
just ridiculous.
Huh.
And because we were moving into a fully furnished home, she also says to us, and this is where you just can't make this stuff up.
Right.
She said, oh, I would love to buy all of your furnishings that are in your Southern California home if you would agree to that. So it was like every obstacle that we had to deal with got handled. And it didn't get handled through my own efforting. It just got handled on behalf of the universe. Because when I said yes to myself, everything else just began falling into place. And I feel like this is a really big signal that we often don't pay attention to in the physical world.
Mhm.
When things are a yes for us, the doors swing open and the road rises up to meet us, and it's easy.
Right.
It's easy.
100%.
But
Yes.
boy, we love to just throw ourselves against a brick wall and push and force and hurt ourselves trying to make something happen that maybe isn't for us.
Right. When you said at that in the airplane, because I even went back to read that in the book, that your soul contract was activated at that moment. That's like, and you said it exactly the way you wrote it. So I was like, wow, it really was, I mean, it's really ingrained in you. Explain that. Like, I love talking about soul contracts and how, and I know people need to go listen to the first episode with us because there's so much in um, that I can't get into right now because it's only been how many years and you have had created way more magic that we need to cover. But when you explain that, like when you say, I knew our soul contract was activated at that moment. I mean, you didn't even tell him the power those downloads that you were feeling at that retreat. You just
Right,
kept that to yourself. You just didn't even share with him
right,
what you were feeling. Like, oh my gosh, it's almost like I got this feeling like you didn't want him to, like, he wanted it all so bad and you're like, oh, I'm still in San Clemente, I don't want to tell him that maybe I do want to be here, right?
right. Yeah. Um, we have agreements with each other before we get here that will support us in learning the lessons that we have come to this life to learn. Now, I'm not saying like moving to Costa Rica was necessarily preordained. Like, I'm not
Right.
saying that. Um, Here's my theory on this. And this is actually what my next book is going to be about. But my theory is when we make a leap into the unknown, when we're willing to walk into that space of darkness, we suddenly open ourselves to so many possibilities that never even could have existed before that moment.
Right.
And I call it the air of the leap. It's like in the air of the leap, all of a sudden I see it like as all these corridors open, all these gateways become available to us. And it isn't just one little gateway that we're going to squeeze ourselves through. It's many different possibilities, right? Because in those moments, we are unified with the power of creation. We are in the now. We are in that nanosecond of time that opens us to the awareness that we are life itself in motion, right? In
Right.
ecstatic motion, as Rumi would say. We are life itself creating, birthing in that second. And I love the idea of soul contracts and sacred contracts. Carolyn Mace talks a lot about this in her
Yes.
book, Sacred Contracts, where she's done this life-changing, groundbreaking work on archetypes and seeing our life through the archetypal lens. The idea of a sacred contract, and I certainly have one with my husband, is these are the relationships that we come into that are inviting us to grow. They are inviting us to get out of our comfort zone. They are inviting us into our next level of potential. And I think it was Gary Zukav, the first time that I read about this, maybe in The Seat of the Soul, that we pick our parents,
Right.
right? And we all have a gripe with our parents, right? We always want to like tell our parents all the things that they did wrong, and that's why our lives are screwed up when we're stuck in
Right.
that victim blame space. But our parents, like when you think about their soul, loves our soul so much that they are willing to
Right.
play this role, like down here in physical land. I mean, that just takes my breath away.
Mm-hmm.
It just takes my breath away. And, it's so interesting. When we came here to Costa Rica, everybody thought for sure I was screwed. Because listen, I like my high heel shoes and my Louis Vuitton bags. And, I like to get my hair done and my nails done. And I'm a quite a refined girl, right?
Right.
And my husband, he just loves to be sticky and sweaty and out on the beach and surfing. And he loves the tropics and the heat and the humidity. He had a much harder time here
He
than
did?
I did.
Huh.
He had a much
Interesting.
harder time here. He is a celebrity in his own right in
Right.
California.
He's an
Um,
artist, if anyone needed to know.
yeah,
We
Paul
go into
Bond.
that. Yes.
He's a brilliant oil painter. And, here in Costa Rica, nobody really knows who he is. So it's been really challenging for him to get his footing and to
Hmm.
find his way. And I'm so blessed that I get to see all of my clients around the world on Zoom. So it was
Right.
super easy for me, despite the power outages and the internet outages. It's been more graceful for me to sort of find my way and for me to continue doing my work in an easy way. So I've had to remind him of who he is, like of his brilliance and of his work in the world to uplift humanity in the way that he uplifts humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that that's been an important dynamic that has played out as one of his learning lessons,
Right.
as we've come
Oh,
here
I
to
bet.
Costa Rica.
Huh. Interesting. But when you say I know he's my like we're connected, we're soul, he's my soul
Yeah.
contract. We have a
Uh-huh.
contract together. You just know that. It's a knowing.
Oh, yeah. When they say,
Mm-hmm.
when you meet the guy, when it was a second marriage for both of us. Paul proposed to me on my 40th birthday. We met on match.com. That's a whole other story.
Yeah. We go into that in the other episode, by the way.
Do we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, when we met, there was definitely that deep, that click. You know what I mean? Like it's that click and a little bit of relief, if I'm honest. Like, oh, yes, I found him. I found him. And here we are 16 years in,
Mhm.
and we have both completely transformed who we are within the context of the relationship. And when I met him, he was selling real estate, and I was a corporate marketing executive for a hospitality company. And, he was really sort of one of my first coaching clients, even though we didn't know at the time that I was going to be a coach. But I really saw his talent and his brilliance and his genius and was able to call that out and hold that up for him as a partner in believing until he was able to sort of believe that himself.
Right. Oh,
So it was very necessary, like part of the relationship. And then I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing had I not witnessed him with such passion and deep fulfillment and meaning that he was experiencing in his life as a result of his work in the world. And I was like, I want that. Like I want to make a difference in people's lives in that
right.
way. And it's funny because with my marketing background, it always, I thought, made a lot of sense for me to just run his company and run the fine art company. And he never wanted me to do it.
Hmm.
He never wanted me to do it. And he always dissuaded me, and we would argue about it. And I was mad about it for a really long time. But it was totally a blessing, because had I been doing that, I wouldn't be doing this.
Right. What did you learn the most of each other building that house on WhatsApp? What was your biggest lesson in that?
Well, it's so interesting, and we're like sort of still in it. We're so different. We're so, oh my word, we're so different. And I think in our relationship, we are definitely past the point of, those newbie feelings of feeling like you're in love. And
Right.
I know for myself, in our marriage, I've moved from those feelings of being in love to knowing that I have the opportunity to be loving.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love that. That's so good. Because
Yeah.
we're at like a few years more than that, but I didn't get married till I was 36, 37 when I had Paige. So, older, just, second marriage for me, first for Richard. But, when you get to that place, and why I'm asking you though, and I mean, I read it because I laughed because because Richard's so different and how he would build a house and it's similar to what we're similar, you and I. So I was relating to you, but I was like, that's why I'm wanting to know that answer, because if I was to go to Costa Rica, do what you did, but not even be there while it's being built, and dealing with Richard here and knowing that we just are going to trust, but he has a whole different uh, set of beliefs and mindset than I do. But what was your biggest lesson in that with him? Just that you saw how different you were?
I don't know that the lessons have been realized until we got here. And one of the lessons for me, which umbrellas how we built this house together, is the contrast. Costa Rica is filled with such contrast, especially being here in the rainforest. When we actually moved here, it was the rainiest rainy season of all rainy seasons in like 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And actually, we had so much rain that when the sun did come out, Paul and I were on our knees, like saying, "We'll never take you for granted again." You know what I mean? Like, it was one of those. But what I've come to recognize is the contrast is what makes life so damn rich.
Hmm.
And if we were exactly like our partners, wah wah, I mean,
Right.
we would be bored as shit, right?
Totally.
We would be so bored. So I think it's such a good reminder. We come for it all. We come for the highs and the lows. We come for the ecstasy and the joy as much as we come for the pain and the despair. And if we could just get more comfortable with that, maybe we wouldn't suffer as much.
Right. Yeah. So, so true. There was one part of this, you keep talking about this code. I don't even know how to pronounce it, but you say it, it's the Entelechy. What is it?
Entelechy. Entelechy. Entelechy.
Entelechy. I have
Mhm.
never heard that word until I read that in your book. And it's such like the blueprint. Will you go on that? Because I think everyone listening will really, I mean, I've never heard that word. And
I had never heard it either.
okay.
And I was actually reading a Jean Houston book called The Wizard of Us. And she said Entelechy. And I said, "What in the hell is that?" And I got out of bed and I looked it up. And I'll tell you what it means in a minute. But the next day, I received an email from the University of Santa Monica, where I was getting my master's in spiritual psychology. And I received this email from Dr. Mary Holnick, and she used the word Entelechy. And I was like, you got to be kidding me
Oh my
again. Just
gosh.
like the third day in a row.
Jeez, of course for you, Donna.
I know, this is actually in my first book, Original Wisdom. I tell this story. The third day in a row, it was in my horoscope. And I was like, all right, this is a little bit nuts. But at the time, nothing happened. I just learned about Entelechy, which means the fullest realized expression of something. So the entelechy of an acorn is an oak tree. The entelechy of a caterpillar is a butterfly. You have an entelechy. I have an entelechy. Every single living being on the planet has an entelechy. And this is our fullest realized potential. Now, do we all fully realize our potential? I don't know that we do.
Right.
I don't know that we do. Yet it's possible. And I have a theory on how it's possible. But where Entelechy really became a thing for me was fast forward maybe a year after those three things happened, right? To like really anchor that in for me. This is the universe having my back, the universe making sure I'm paying attention. Cause like I said, I'm a little thick-headed. Sometimes I need a poster board to fall out of the sky and hit me in the head to make sure I don't miss it. So a year goes by and I'm sure that I'm all done at the University of Santa Monica. I have my master's degree. I've done the 2-year program, and there's not one bone in this body that feels the need or the call to go on to the 3rd year, which was the extension in consciousness, health, and healing. And I've spent a lot of money and a lot of time, and I've been fully invested. And I'm like, at this point, I was thinking I'm going to become a coach, but I have this executive marketing background. I have the traits of an entrepreneur. Like, I'm all set. I don't need any more schooling. I'm ready to go. And we're at that part in the program where they're now talking about the classes for this 3rd year of the program. And I'm half paying attention because I'm kind of like, I'm not
Right.
right. I'm not doing that. When all of a sudden, Mary Holnick says, and my favorite class is called Entelechy. And I was like, what just
Wow.
happened right now? What is going on right now? And that was a clear sign to me, Ashley, like, get your ass in that program. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. This is for you. You are going, no argument. And I knew it. You know what I mean? I knew it. Just like I knew when I was looking out that window at LAX that we were coming here to Costa Rica. I knew it inside of me. And the hardest part was trying to explain to my husband, how am I going to make another, $30,000 investment in year number 3 to attend
Right.
this school, attend this program? And I did. And I had some of my biggest breakthroughs, and it was life-changing for me on every level. And I absolutely needed to be there. So it was all by great design.
But
But
why do you say that? What? No, I mean, keep going, because then keep going.
well, how do I even answer it? I would not have gotten to where I am now. And when I say that, I'm not really talking about anything that's going on in the physical world. I'm talking about my own inner awarenesses, my own inner journey, my own inner knowingness, like deepening in confidence. But it's not, we're so accustomed to deriving our esteem from things outside of ourselves.
Mhm.
You do a good job and somebody gives you accolades, or you win an award, or you get a big bonus check, or you're finally driving your favorite dream car or whatever. Those things make us feel good for a nanosecond.
Right.
And then it's kind of like empty calories, tastes good going down, but it's not really doing anything for you. And this is how I began to recognize that pattern in my own life before I took this inner journey, before I pursued the master's in spiritual psychology, which was really a journey into myself. I
Right.
was the curriculum, I was the homework.
Yeah, amazing. Yes.
And then having left my old life and completely transformed every aspect of my being into what I'm doing today in the world was a complete transformation. So it's like I have this place inside of myself that is solid. It's a surety, it's a knowingness, it's a sovereignty, really is the word. It's like it's an inner sovereignty that lets me release my need for the doing and the trying and the going and the striving and the false belief that there's going to be something else outside of me that will fulfill me.
Right.
And so in this like realization of entelechy, there's so much fulfillment in the process.
Right.
It's like this is going to last. This process is going to last for the rest of the time that I'm in this body, for the rest of the time that I am on this planet until I take my last breath. I'm not trying to get anywhere.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not
I
trying
love
to
that.
get it. Yet the way in which I live now is very different because I'm not trying to get anywhere.
Right. And what if Donna Bond never left Ritz-Carlton and just kept her, well, I feel like the 99% of people live in that with those blinders on and just think that's what they're supposed to be doing. Don't listen to the whispers like you did and followed that next path, I always talk about the whys in the road and the breadcrumbs and listening and going, and you talk about the leap but that that Donna that's still living and working at Ritz-Carlton, thinking that and doesn't have this, does she live Donna Bond in this body until she has her last breath and then comes back to have to fulfill that blueprint in another
Uh,
body? How do you see that?
yeah, I love your question so much. And this is also very specific in my book. I think that we give ourselves exit ramps. And I think that we give ourselves exit ramps when our soul recognizes we're not on track according to the soul's plan. And unbeknownst to me, at the time that I was at the Ritz-Carlton, I had breast cancer growing in my chest. And I had a prophetic dream about it. I can't
We
remember
talked
whether
about
we,
it, but it's okay. Share it because this is like a pinnacle
yeah.
moment.
So I had a dream that I had a fish hook all the way through my left breast. And in that dream, I was looking at myself and I said out loud, "How are you going to get out of this?" And I woke up. And when I woke up, I made an appointment that day for a test, which led to many more appointments. And it led to me being given a triple negative breast cancer diagnosis at the age of 47, 5 days before my 47th birthday. If I were still at the Ritz-Carlton, so let me also just sort of share the timeline. I had resigned from my position at the Ritz-Carlton 1 year before that all happened. And I had been meditating. I had been eating out of the Vitamix. I had been dramatically changing my lifestyle in many, many different ways. Now, I had not yet found my way to coaching. I was working as a marketing consultant at the time because that was the bridge that I needed that could still provide an income for me and still get my physical world needs met while I was sort of still bumping around in the dark trying to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. That, I believe, even if I had had that dream, Ashley, I wouldn't have remembered it.
Mm.
I wouldn't have remembered it. And it was not, I was not on a regular mammogram cycle when I had that dream. I had actually just had a mammogram, maybe 2 months before that, with no
Huh.
evidence of anything. So who knows how long I would have gone with a time bomb in my chest
Mhm.
with a very aggressive cancer. So I feel like it's a built-in exit ramp, built-in how to get out of here.
So when you say exit ramps, I understand that. So when we're given life and we're walking the path and we decide to quit a job and we follow our path and we go this other way and we're following our blueprint. What do you call it again? Like Entelechy.
Entelechy.
Entelechy. Got it. There's something it's in our DNA. It's in this soul that we have inside this human body. We brought it from so connect. I know you connect with your higher self and you have this amazing connection with your higher self and you explain and you help people with that. When you say the blueprint and the entelechy, is that something like where you are putting these contracts together in this other realm before you could come into this body as Donna Bond? That Entelechy is part of that plan? How do you see that? Is that, okay, Donna Bond's gonna, this life, I'm gonna go down, work at Ritz-Carlton, quit, get a breast cancer. That's gonna be my opening to do this coaching, go to this college in Santa Monica, study spiritual psychology. Like, is that already in that Entelechy?
No.
Okay,
Um, the way I think about it is one of the lessons that I came to learn that my soul has absolutely got to learn in this life is about authentic free expression. That is one of my core lesson plans, authentic free expression. And so I'm now with my free will as a human down
right,
here on earth making choices. And choice is a power that we have that we underestimate, that we should really recognize. Our lives are a result of our choices.
right,
So the choices that I'm now going to make with my free will as a human being are going to either be in alignment or out of alignment with that part of my soul's mission. Okay. Has
got it.
nothing to do with being a coach, has nothing to do with spiritual psychology, has nothing to do with working at the Ritz-Carlton. What it has to do with are the choices that made that are getting me in alignment or out of alignment with that lesson plan. And if I am refusing the lesson plan, then I am inhibiting my own potential. I am
Right.
minimizing my own potential, my own greatness, my own genius, my own entelechy. So that's sort of how I organize it, right? And I don't just have one soul lesson. We all don't just have one soul lesson. We have many. But this also is a really big clue to help us notice when we are on track with our highest mission, our highest calling, because when we're in alignment with the soul's purpose, it's quite mysterious how everything in our life works.
Mm-hmm.
Our health suddenly works. You know, our work in the world, we enjoy it. There's harmony. Things feel easy and effortless. And just like we were talking about, right? We're either slamming ourselves through a wall
Right.
or the doors are swinging open and we're walking through. And so as we begin to listen to the direction of our higher knowing, which always has the map, which always has the clue, which always is giving us information 24/7, 365. We just don't listen to it. And sometimes we don't know how to listen to it. And sometimes we are so encumbered with the physical world and the laws of the physical world and the belief systems of the physical world that we can't free ourselves enough to even be in a space of recognizing.
Right. You know, when I keep going, when you're pausing, I'm like, okay,
No,
tell me.
you go.
But you know, but when I think of people and I'm looking at you, and yes, you've realized that, but when I have, and I feel like, gosh, you know, I was 50 when I started this podcast. I had my children. You know, you didn't have children, so my like 40s were all having children while you were at the Ritz-Carlton, or no, when you were finished with the Ritz-Carlton, when you were doing your spiritual work. But you know, when I realized that feeling, like you described too, and I've read your books, but of that moment where you're like, you know, that you're on the right path, and you do start accepting those, you start seeing the signs, and you're open, and I feel like your vibration is high, and you're like living in this awareness, and you know, and you're living in like bliss, and you're living in this moment. Everything is all in alignment with the now moment. But when you look around and you see how the world goes, and I don't watch the news or anything like that, and I know you don't either, but I don't, it's just, and I have my little cocoon here with my family, with the girls and we live that way. And I teach them because they do what I do. So I know how important that is to be that person. But but when I turned 50, it was like, you know, meeting people on this journey, and like it's so expansive as it's been for 4 years, so expansive, my growth. But when you realize like we're like this little we're like this little pod of people that are raising the vibration of this, you know, it only takes one, like Abraham Hicks says, to have the highest vibration, more powerful than a million that don't. But when I hear you, like when people come to you as clients, I mean, we're coming to the end, but when people come to you, do you feel like they're drawn to you because you can help them lead that, get to that place where they see that you're living in this right now moment of pure acceptance, alignment? Because I was listening to you on a podcast, there was a woman that was struggling in the um, her acting career because it was on strike, and she kept her vocabulary was very aggressive and negative, and I thought, and I heard you switch it around, and it kind of opened her eyes. And I do that a lot too with my clients, where do you hear how you're talking, like just the words? That's like I'm a word police person, you know, but it's like the energy that you're putting out with your words is so powerful. But I saw how you transform that, and so that's really, you do that, that's what you do for your clients. So you try to explain to them how they're showing up, and why their life is looking. It's a reflection, right? Everything that's
Yeah.
inside of you, your world is reflecting it back.
Yes, the world is our mirror.
Right.
And sometimes we don't want to look in the mirror. You know, we don't want to look at the information that's really being given to us because it's too scary, or, you know, it's too painful. And that's true. And that's why we need the right places and spaces to be able to gently and compassionately and with the deepest amount of acceptance gradually walk ourselves into the truth of things that are no longer serving us, and the awareness that there's another possibility. And I feel like all of my clients, on some level, they know that there's another possibility for them. And either they're holding a dream in their heart, or they know clearly exactly what it is, but they might be paralyzed with fear and they don't know how to take that leap and be in the unknown and keep moving forward. And so I really can hold for that possibility. And that paralleled with my own intuitive knowingness and what I can see with my clients and for my clients. So I really help people unlock the blocks, right? Because we all have blocks that stand in the way of us really aligning ourselves with our original wisdom, with our true brilliance, with our radiant light. And so when we can meet that block with love and compassion and understanding, then we can dissolve it and open ourselves to what's possible next.
Right. When I look at myself, when you're talking about blocks, I think of things that I know blocks are limiting beliefs, things that you've been programmed to believe, things that you have from childhood and from past lives or whatever. But for you, what process do you put them through when just are they telling you what they want to do and then they're giving you an example of things that they've tried and they can't, and you figure out you're like the break, you can break through? Do you
Like a
see the
detective.
light? Yeah, you're a detective.
Yeah. I had a client, I don't know, she's just being shown to me right now, Jolene. Jolene sat in my office and told me about her catering business. And she was a young entrepreneur and she was building this catering business and on and on and on. And she wanted to grow the catering business. But she really held a dream deep in her heart for music. She grew up in a family of musicians. She loved to play the guitar and she loved to sing, but she could, that wasn't something that would ever be a reality for her. And that's why she was investing all of her time and her energy and her efforts in building her catering business. Well, Jolene launched her first record album
Wow.
and she moved to Nashville and she is pursuing life as a musician. And
Amazing.
so we oftentimes are investing our life force in other things, just like you're saying, thinking those are the right things to do. I've got to earn an income and pay my mortgage and do all those worldly things that we have to do. As we align with our highest calling, things begin to float into our experience that are for us. And everything is a lesson. Everything is giving us an opportunity to learn and to grow and to evolve. When we can see those blocks and we're willing to work through them, we just continue to reveal new possibilities that are coming forward for us. The way I work with my clients is through the modality of spiritual psychology, using the principles and practices of spiritual psychology. And really, that is looking through a lens that sees every single thing that's happening as happening for us, not
Right.
happening to us. And when we see our life through the spiritual context, then we can ask the question, what is here for me? How is this inviting me to grow, to stretch, to get out of my comfort zone, even though I might not want to?
Right. What is your spiritual practice in the morning? I know you're pretty dedicated to it.
I'm pretty dedicated to it. Can you
And
see my shala out my window there? That
yes.
is my temple that I created for myself here in Costa Rica. I have a very disciplined practice. I almost never miss it. I go greet the day, and sometimes it starts with just dance and movement in the silence, listening to the jungle of Costa Rica.
Wow.
I've really taken up yoga. So I definitely have to have that movement piece, and I just listen to my body. There's no formal class that I'm attending. There's no uh, agenda that I have. I really am in tuning in to what wants to be moved and stretched. And I probably spend about 45 minutes just in the movement. And then I will meditate. I use a mantra that I will, on Sunday, I spent 5 hours in my spiritual practice. But
Wow.
on a typical day, 20, 25 minutes, I will chant my mantra. And then I recently went on a cleanse in August, and I lost 13 pounds of inflammation, which
Wow.
was huge and enormous on so many levels. We could have a whole nother show about that whole journey because it
Huh.
was transformative for sure. But the third part of my practice now is I go into the kitchen and I prepare something for my breakfast that is where I've got my hands on food, like on specific herbs, on whole foods, where there's a little bit of a ritualistic devotional process that I've really incorporated as part of my own self nurturing.
Hmm.
And boy, when I skip it, I notice.
Huh. And the
But
mantra, explain the mantra. Like, tell me, like, what is it? Like, just one word, like love, or you just, how does that work and why?
yeah, so I actually work with a 7-syllable mantra that was given to me through an initiation by the Church for Spiritual Inner Awareness. So it's not something that I share with other people. It's like as I hold that mantra within myself, it contains energy, and the energy that builds within me as I chant really the name of God is something that's very sacred and very private. But a mantra, like you're saying, it can be just one word. You can use the word peace or the word love. And the point of a mantra is to hold our attention. And inevitably, right, you can chant the mantra, love, love, love. Oh, I wonder what we're going to have for dinner tonight. And that's what happens when we meditate, right?
Right.
Is our attention goes off, and it always will, and it always does. And this is why they call it a practice.
Right.
So when we notice that our attention is no longer on the mantra, we lovingly pull our attention back to the mantra. And then we continue to chant the mantra. And I will sometimes imagine I'm seeing my mantra before me. I will move the energy and the mantra into different places in my body. Sometimes I'm holding the mantra in my third eye. Sometimes I'm holding the mantra in my heart. Sometimes I'm holding the mantra in the middle of my head.
Hmm.
So that's just a way to move the energy around and um, build it into different pockets of power inside of ourselves.
How do you connect like with your spirit team? Like, how do you, or whatever you call it, your higher self, God, how do you connect? And do you do that every day in writing or just prayer?
Yeah. So I use like incantations, invocations. I'm very verbal, very audio. And my belief is that our voice carries with it an energetic signature that is a specific resonance that we are sending out into the universe. And
Mhm.
so I actually call in the angels that I'm working with. I actually call in the qualities of the experience that I'm looking to have. I will ask to be cleared, filled, surrounded, and protected with, I say, the white light of the Holy Spirit through the Christ, which, might feel a little religious to people. It's actually Christ consciousness is universal consciousness. It's the
Mhm.
consciousness of oneness and all that is. And that's what it means to me when I say it. So I'll ask to be cleared, and then I will recognize what's in this space. And so I'll say, in this space, I recognize grace, love, peace, upliftment, creativity, aliveness, whatever it is, I'm sort of calling into my experience in that time. Um, I find that speaking it out loud is a way that I can embody it in a more grounded, real way.
Right. Did you
Yeah.
do that when you lived in San Clemente? I mean, I can understand speaking out in that beautiful, underneath that, in that area right there, but in Costa Rica. And did you do that in San Clemente?
Yes, I've always done it. I
Okay.
learned to do that at the University of Santa Monica, and then I sort of took it in my own direction.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, and I clear myself before and after every client I see. I then will do a clearing session with the client, upon the beginning of the session, and I close our space in the same way that I open our space. Because I consider this work that I do to be very sacred, and I'm not doing it alone. I am doing it with a team of the invisible realms, a
Right.
team of angels, a team of light beings that work with me and through me and as me. And so my gratitude and recognition of that is an important part of what I'm doing.
Hmm.
Uh, and so I do it a lot.
I love that. Do you feel like your connection grows, like you're more in tuned even more and more as you practice that?
Yes. And if I find that I'm not clear, just vocalizing it and using my voice to clear the stuck energy that's in my vessel is really powerful and really impactful.
And your husband, what does he do while you're doing that?
He's asleep.
Oh, I'm picturing like if Richard would be like, "What are you doing?"
Well, he's up in the bedroom, he'll do some yoga with me sometimes. His spiritual practice is out in the water.
Mm,
His spiritual practice is on his surfboard and connecting with nature, immersing himself in nature and connecting in that way.
yeah, I love it. Oh, Donna, it's been so fun, and of course, it's goes so fast. So we're working on a new book. That's
Yeah.
what's in the plan. You have retreats. There's one
Yet
coming up, right?
there is my Costa Rica retreat is coming up in 3 weeks. It's completely sold out, but you can catch the 2025 perhaps. It's called Connect to Your Essential Nature. And it's here on the South Pacific in Costa Rica, in the middle of Central America, in this beautiful land of magic. And, I'm frequently offering online classes and programs. So visiting donnabond.com, you can learn more.
Thank you. I love it. So fun to see you again. And
Thank
I
you
know
so
there'll
much.
be, oh, you're so welcome. And there will be probably a part three because you're always uncovering more magic. And I have to bring you on to share that because you're just such an example. And you're so inspiring to me because I feel like listening to your story, reading the book, and knowing what you just went through in the last couple of years, it just gives people like, it inspires them to say, wait, if she can do that and she's moving forward and taking those leaps, what if I took a leap? You
I
know?
love this.
Yeah. And I know that that leap is perfect because there's no wrong leap.
There's no wrong leap, and anybody can do it. And it's just, Ashley, if you knew me, where I was, where I came from, and the belief systems that I was holding about myself and my life, and the limitations that I had placed on myself that were so false and so now irrelevant, but
Mhm.
it truly, truly is possible for anyone and everyone.
And we're not here that long, so just go do it.
Yeah.
So just go jump. Take that leap. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you for your work in the world. I'm
Oh,
so
thank you
grateful
so
for
much.
you.
I love that. Thank you.